All right, guys, what is going on? You're hanging out inside of Gaming with the Watch the podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mario, and this is my daughter, Dominique. We are a gaming family, a family gaming channel where we play games, do walkthroughs, and now we have a podcast, and this is episode number 2. So if you didn't get a chance to check out episode number 1, go and check it out. We think you'll like it. It was about microtransactions, and this episode is going to be about the console wars, and I'm pretty sure everybody has their own opinions about it, so but we're going to get into it. And without further adu, let me introduce you to my lovely daughter, Dominique. What's going on, Dominique?
Well, today we will be talking about the console war, but not just like any part of console wars, the upcoming console wars.
Okay, but in the process of doing that, we may go back and talk about some of the past stuff that happened that maybe might give you a little insight as to what may be coming, or maybe the past has nothing to do with the future. But either way it go, we'll try to get it all in there and talk about it. You know what I mean? So when it comes to the console wars, there are several things that's going on, right? But most people attribute the console wars right now to strictly PlayStation 5 and the Xbox X Series X. That's what it's called, the Xbox X Series X?
I think it's called the Xbox. I think it's called the Xbox Series 1.
No. Without even doing all of that, we can pull this up really quick and see what the official name is. There you go. Series X. It's called the Xbox Series X title. So, without further ado.
Yeah, so about the upcoming console war, it's probably going to be an interesting one, because I think a few days ago, Sony said they're only expecting the PS5 to last 5 years. Now, I don't know about the Series X, but so this console generation may be a bit shorter than the last one, because you gotta remember, the last console generation almost lasted a decade, and before that console generation almost lasted a decade. So we don't know about the length for this one, but people are saying this might be the last console generation, with PCs becoming cheaper. But I still think, as long as PCs, gaming PCs are really expensive, there's probably still gonna be a place for console gaming somewhere. Like, until PCs become cheap, it isn't gonna be much of a threat to consoles.
Okay. All right. Well, I got mixed opinions on this. I got several opinions on this. So, just hang in there with me. All I'm saying is that, looking at it, the console wars, to me, I don't want to say it's a made up thing, but it's
stupid.
I don't want to say it's stupid, but it's one of them type of things where I wouldn't put it past all the companies, especially Microsoft and Sony, considering the fact at one point they were trying to have a working relationship with each other, because my daughter brought a video to me that showed where Bill Gates actually went to the head of Sony Computer Entertainment at the time and tried to work something out and try to come up with something good, but they could not. So that was a generation ago. So maybe they all got together and say, because how come it's funny that right when Sony comes up with a next gen system, Microsoft come out with a next gen system, and they both know, trying to play it close to the vest and not tell us anything. And I just really believe if the COVID COVID-19 wasn't here, we'd still be having the same thing where, because they blamed a lot of stuff on COVID by not doing reveals, by not having gameplay ready because people couldn't work and things like this. But all this did was play into their hands because they want to try to string us along as long as they possibly can so they can get to that holiday season and have everybody all ramped up and amped up ready to get these systems, when at its core we don't even know if these systems are going to be worth it. And they put up a thing, see if I can find it. They put up a thing earlier where they said that games are literally going to be costing, $70. You know, so if that's the price point for this, and they saying that you're going to be paying for quality, how do we know if it's quality? We can't say for sure that it's a quality type thing. We don't know. If the games are going to be $70, at this point, I cannot any longer, with good conscience, accept a sucky quality game. I don't need the graphics to be half-assed or not on par. I don't need the story to be half-assed. I don't need the gameplay and the controls to be not right for $70. And if this is what you're telling me, looking at the article, that we have to pay for the quality, then if that's the case, as the developer and as the publishers and as the company themselves, I will no longer accept a subpar game if you're going to charge me $70.
To be fair, Rockstar, releases solid games. At least you can rely on them.
I mean, that's true, but from what this article says, it says, Take-Two CEO saying that, that 2K games and is going to be enough to justify the $70 price because of the quality that you're going to be getting. How can they automatically, without putting it in end users' hands, into a gamer's hands, determine that the quality is going to be great? Every game developer, from a software standpoint, from a technology standpoint, think their game should cost $200, but that doesn't make it true, and that doesn't make it come across to the people who playing it as a fun quality game. What makes them determine just because of the software they're using makes it $70?
Well, prices are probably going up because game developers going up. Games probably need a price raise for a while. That's why, and $60 again, there are microtransactions in DLC. So I think this is just eventually them saying, hey, games need a price raise, so we're going to do it and stop being around the bush.
And so you think that as the gens keep going on from one level to the next level to the next level, that a price point raise is going to be inevitable every time they drop a system now from this point forward, because the gaming community has proven that, let's just face it, we're not as intelligent as they peg us to be, because we keep paying for things that are just not worth paying for. But now, don't get me wrong, I'm saying all this to say that yes, I am really excited to see what the next level brings. But we all know from going through all the consoles, I've had to going back to Atari 2600, ColecoVision. I've had all the systems damn near just about as a kid going into an adult. And we all know that for you telling me that the price is going to be $70, we all know when the game first dropped, those first set of games on a new console are usually crap. Can you agree with that? That when a game system first come out, that first set of games, that first little lunch game that they call lunch titles, usually don't be good titles, because most developers just don't know how to capitalize off the full potential of whatever the system is. And most games that come is just a port from a previous version of a game, but they tell you it's next gen.
Yeah, I would agree with the launch lineup of consoles. Most of the time sucks, but sometimes there have been good launch titles. Like, it's gotten better in the recent years with consoles launching. They release with actual good games, or at least not good, but at least playable. They may not be good, but they're playable, but they're solid non-buggy messes and stuff. Like, they're solid.
Okay, so So if you were not a Switch person, right? What would you be leaning toward if you were not a Switch person? As far as
Uh,
the console go, what would you be leaning towards?
I'm not really sure because in terms of what I want from games, because like I'm not like the graphic person. I don't want like the highest graphics for my game. So honestly, it can go either way for me. I think it'll probably depend on like what the UI looks like for each consoles. Because if it's like if I can't decide, then I'm probably gonna go which looks better UI wise.
Okay. And you bring up a really good point. I think that people have become so fascinated with graphics and load times that we tend to forget a game ultimately is supposed to be fun. It's ultimately supposed to bring some type of really good experience to the person who playing the game, where we feel like we either want to tell somebody about it, or we feel like we want to play more, or we feel like we just cannot put it down. You know what I mean? I think because people get caught up in stuff, how it looks really good. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan, but you got to give Nintendo credit from a gameplay standpoint. They rarely make games that are just crappy out the box and need 1,000 patches and fixes. I don't know about now, but I'm just saying, from when I used to be into Nintendo, the game controls and all of that was solid right from day one. A lot of games are being shipped half cocked and not even ready, and they'll just tell you within the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 days of us lunch, we'll just send a patch for it. What are you doing in the whole time from you first announced the game to the time where you gave us updates, and from the time that you produced your first trailer, your second trailer, your third trailer, that you didn't take time to actually make the game come right from day one? So I'm hoping with the new consoles, everything comes right and ready to go day one. And for me, without question, I'm going with the PlayStation 5. Is
Brand loyalty.
yes, brand loyalty. But this might be the year where I just say it might be the first year that I actually venture out and look into an Xbox Series X. But let me say all that by saying that if they give us this same game producing pattern from the last year or so, then right from the jump, they're gonna lose because PlayStation just flat out just whooped them. And I'm not saying that from a brand loyalty standpoint. I'm saying that from a number standpoint. I'm saying that from all the survey standpoint. They just recently took a survey over in Europe, and they polled all these different people, and 80% of the people said that when these systems drop, they are choosing the PlayStation 5.
Well, it depends. Like, would you consider this like the fourth controller rate or the seventh if we're taking into account like what like the Nintendo and the Sega and the Genesis Sega drive, or is this like a completely different thing from that if we're counting consoles wars?
And that's a very good question. What gen do people really consider this to be? Are you counting them all, or do you say that really next gen started with PlayStation One? Yes. So I just think you take them all into consideration. It's just the seventh iteration of just keep going. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's the seventh one.
Because I was gonna say is like if you take into account like which console do you think can win next generation? Obviously, like after Wii, people don't like take Nintendo in consideration, but before that, Nintendo was like a very valid contender in the console wars, and even with the Nintendo Switch, it's still somewhat valid today with consoles.
Yeah, and I just think I find it interesting that all of this could be null and void. All of this could have been a non-issue if Sony and Microsoft, I mean not Sony and Microsoft, but Sony and Nintendo could have worked something out with back in the day. But something fell through. I think they said
Yeah,
Nintendo
we
pulled
could
out.
have had the Nintendo PlayStation right now. We could have been on the Nintendo PlayStation 5 right now.
You know what? That's one of them things where I say, thank God that did not happen, because I wouldn't want no mix of no, because at some point, since Nintendo was the big wig at the time all this happened, that Nintendo probably would have won out most of its ideas, most of its content, and we wouldn't be where we at today. So thank you, Nintendo, for pulling out, and thank you, Sony, for deciding that we gonna go walk our own path, because gaming is in a much better place now. No offense to your Switch and stuff like that. No offense. But gaming is in a much better place. But when you think about the whole the iteration of gaming and where it has come from, I just think that Sony focuses on gaming and having just a good catalog, a good library like that. At this particular point, I think Xbox is more. When I say Xbox, Microsoft is more interested in truly making a line of gaming PCs. I think if they could, they'd probably get out the console war, all the console business altogether, because they just figure Sony got that. I think if you look at what they're doing, they're trying to move everything towards the PC realm. And let's face it, from what we've all been told, the Xbox One, the first Xbox, and the Xbox 360 was pretty much just low-end gaming PCs. So that's what Microsoft is good at. I just think that at some point, that's ultimately where they want to go. What do you, any thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely do think that they probably don't want to get out the console business. It's just like the Xbox is just there because you think with the Xbox Gaming Pass, like you can get on the Xbox, but you can also you can also get the same games on your PC. It's like you pay for Xbox and it goes for both the Xbox and the PC.
And don't forget, they just extended it. If you have the Ultimate Gamer Pass now, they're including a mobile app where you could take it, the Gamer Pass, onto mobile devices now.
And I think that Microsoft still wants to keep the Xbox around just for it to be like a tipping point. Like people who are into Xbox, because of Microsoft persistence, they might get into computer gaming later because of that. So I still think Microsoft wants the Xbox around for like a tipping point into PC gaming.
Oh, okay. Well, look at it like this. I think that ultimately, this, as we've heard several people say, might be a short life cycle for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. It's already rumblings out there that PlayStation has already have released certain patents and things like that to say that there is a potential PlayStation 6 on the horizon, and PlayStation 5 hasn't even dropped yet. So by all rights, when you're thinking about buying this, you got to keep in mind that this console life cycle may not make it anywhere near a decade. So if you're a gamer, I know that's playing the long game, and I know most gamers don't care for the long game because we absolutely despise, pushbacks and delays. So the long game is definitely not in a gamer's DNA. We want our games and we want them now. So we don't care about 5 years from now we're going to have to shell out another $400, $450, $500 for a PlayStation 6. But that is something to take into consideration, that if they are already planning 5 years from now to have a PlayStation 6, you might want to take that into consideration. I mean, but I guess they say, well, if people keep buying the iPhone every year for $1,000, this is a small investment to spend $500 every 5 or 6 years on a PlayStation. So what you saying to me?
Well, we got to take into consideration, is it on purpose, or do they think that technology would be on a high level by then, that it wouldn't be able to integrate into like a PS5 Pro or Series X Pro? Cause I really don't think they would do the console generation so short when their last two have been almost decade long. So I think there's maybe something going on behind the scenes for it to want this console generation to last so short.
Well, in all honesty, what do you think could potentially be going on behind the scenes to make it where it might be so short? I mean, what do you think that could be going on, or is you saying it's a hardware issue? Cause a lot of people saying that it's difficult for them to get all the supplies due to the COVID-19, and so they gonna and I want to talk about this after you answer this question. And so they said they're gonna take a loss to produce these machines. So what are your thoughts? And I'll talk about the loss stuff in a second.
I don't know what's going on behind the scenes because it's definitely not money. Because for the last two generations, they saw that having long generations can be profitable. Like especially with console revisions, those really be profitable with the same generation. So I really don't know what could be going on. It could be COVID. It could be this console generation was planning to be long, but because of COVID, it interrupted their plans, and so this console generation can't be as long as the past two with the decades and stuff.
Okay. Let me just address this whole thing where they be saying, well, they're doing us a favor. They're taking a loss on these systems when they sell it to us. They say the previous generation, they sold it at a loss. They said that they potentially lost both companies about $4 billion and stuff like that. But they figure that they'd make it up in selling you, the paraphernalia, the accessories, and whatever money you claim you lose, and you will make up for in your Xbox Live Gamer Pass and the PlayStation Plus. So I don't want to hear about you selling it, you taking a loss to sell us a console. Anywhere it go, you still selling a console for $500, and you said, oh, it's costing us, I don't know, $537 to produce. But think about it, for all the people that pay $59, $59.99 a month, $60 roughly, for a PlayStation Plus pass. And there are months where y'all give us crappy games we don't even play, we don't even attempt to download. There are times where I'll go a month where I don't play online gaming. So there are months where I'm giving you $60 and I'm not really taking full advantage or using the service that you guys allow me, because you guys have told us it cost us to play online, and all the money you make through microtransactions, you just take that from one set of books and slide it over to the other set of books to offset that. So I don't want to hear any more about how you taking a loss to give us a console.
Speaking of that, with games rising in price, the online passes might rise in price too. Instead of $60 a year, it might be $70.
Yes, and then with that, you can't fault other services like GameFly that's going to raise their monthly subscription fee, because it's a trickle effect, it's the domino effect. If the top of the food chain decides that they have to do something different, and then everybody else have to fall in line just in order just to keep status quo, in order to just keep the books right, in order to just compete, you have to change with whatever the big boys say, whatever the big boss say. You have to change too. So it's not just the fact that it's going to cost $70. It's going to raise the price of joysticks. It's going to raise the price of all type of third-party accessories, because they have to. And like I said, my most important concern is the raising of the price of GameFly. We use GameFly. We are a GameFly family. I don't want to see it change, but guess what? It has to, because they're going to have to pay more money for the games, just like everybody else.
Here's the thing, with the raising price of games too, that means the standard price for a AAA game might rise, so that might ripple throughout, because Nintendo Switch games might start costing, Nintendo Switch AAA games might start costing $70, and the price of AAA games is going to go up on Steam too. So instead of $60, the average AAA game may cost $60 on $70 on Steam. So with a few games racking up, AAA developers might see this as a chance to set the new standard price of AAA games from 60 to 70 across all platforms.
And in all honesty, that'll be a travesty if they decide to do that, because you already got people, gamers that really would love to play the games, but let's just face it, it costs too much, and the accessories are starting to cost way too much as well. I understand that it's a lot of technology go into today's type of controller, joystick, depending on what area you're from, and it costs a little bit more. But I just find it hard to believe that the game and the controller cost the same thing. Somewhere along the way, you screwing me on one of these. The game costs $59.99. The controller costs $59.99 or $49.99. I just don't think that should be, because even if you lived in a house, or you say I want to invite friends over, it makes it almost impossible for you to have 4 joysticks if you had one of those games where 4 people could play, unless you tell everybody to bring their own joystick, because joysticks are just aren't affordable. There's no other way to say that.
Yeah, I think Switch a pair of Joy-Cons, and this is keeping in mind that Joy-Con drift hasn't been fixed yet. I think a pair of Joy-Cons costs $80, while somehow the Pro controller is like $50, which is like $20 cheaper. I'm not sure the version of controller is less expensive than the standard controller.
Well, I don't know. I just think as time go on, they got to do something about the accessories too, because that hinders. But I understand it goes back to what I just said about them taking a loss on the actual console. They have to do other things to offset that cost, and accessories is one of those things. That's why they will prefer you, especially PlayStation, to buy their proprietary accessories instead of third party, because they need to have that money come directly back to them. And I'm willing to bet that from a production standpoint, a joystick probably doesn't cost $50 to manufacture. I'm just going to go on record and say that, especially after you've made so many of them and you've refined the production process. It's no way that at some point you couldn't give people a break on them, because you got a lot of low-income households, single parents, and maybe kids to have joysticks. And let's be honest, joysticks wear out over time. They're not everlasting, so give us a break on the joysticks if y'all just happen to be listening out there.
Or either that, or like at least have sales. Like, it doesn't have to be freaking, like, you could have an annual sale where everything like goes down $20 in price.
Yeah.
With like games, consoles, and joysticks and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's truly can happen. So now, we talked about the PlayStation 5. We talked about the Xbox Series X. Since you are the resident Nintendo expert, give me your thoughts on what do you think about the Pro, because I told you earlier that I heard rumors that that the Pro is not coming, that there just might be an upgraded Switch. So your rumors on what may be happening with Nintendo.
Well, my thoughts is it may not be happening, because you look at Nintendo now, they're barely announcing games. Like, we don't know what their lineup's coming out. All you have is rumors to go on, so there might not even be an approved Switch or a Switch Pro next year or the year after that.
And for the record, that Nintendo Direct Mini sucked. Carry on.
So, I don't know. Well, it's not like a mind, because Nintendo doesn't really compete with the Xbox and PlayStation. They kind of do their own thing. Like, they're in a completely different market, and it's like oh, Nintendo, we're not concerned about the Xbox or the PlayStation. We do our own thing. We have a different audience, because Nintendo games compared to like Microsoft and Sony, they have like a little bit more variety on games. Like, if you want RPGs, you have them. If you have platformers, you have them. And their games kind of just very more with generals and stuff. Like, for Nintendo Switch, there's probably something for everybody.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't really have anything to say about the Switch, But I will say this, that as I told you, I'm not a Switch person or play it a lot, but I do respect the fact that it is a very ingenuitive thought, a very creative thing, and I just think I would love to see what the next iteration of that is going to be. But with Nintendo, you just never know. Instead of giving you a complete upgraded iteration of it, they may give you several different versions of the same thing, but different. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, but they might either make it smaller, make it bigger, or make it where the things, the Joy-Cons don't attach. To make the Joy-Cons bigger. You know, it just depends on it, because they rarely ever give you like something radically updated and new this quick, like, you know, a new Switch.
Well, we don't know. Nintendo have done that with their handhelds, but you have to remember the Switch is a hybrid console, so we don't know if they will be taking the handheld route with the Switch and releasing multiple different iterations that could either change the system a lot or nothing, or we could be taking the Nintendo console route where it's just the same system. Because I think Nintendo has only done one revision console, and that was like the Wii Mini. It was like a mini Wii that didn't connect to Wi-Fi, and I think that was like their only console revision. So Nintendo doesn't do console revisions all that often, like not at all.
Okay. All right. Now, with that being said, we got one more entry into the potential new consoles, and I don't know if it's not a console, it's a handheld, but it's sort of like a throwback type handheld thing, and it is called the Analogue Pocket. So, any thoughts on the Analogue Pocket? But look at it though. If you look at it, they said that pre-order sold out within 15 minutes, and the people who made it, Analog, had to come on and say that they're sorry, but due to COVID concerns, they're going to try their best to speed up the process and be able to produce more. And I told my daughter when we first talked about this last week, I said, I don't know if this thing is going to sell for the price point that they're asking for. And I'm eating crow on that. Boy, was I wrong. Sold out in 15 minutes. I didn't think that many people will be looking to play old Game Boy Advance games and Game Boy games and DXL. I just didn't think the market would be that big for it. Or is this just one of them niche type things that people just want to be able to say, I got me one?
Oh, but you don't know. It being sold in 15 minutes could be scalpers, because you know scalpers, they buy niche things because you know they're niche and jack up the prices on them. So it could be scalpers buying them up. So when they release and get them, they will resell them for way higher prices.
It could be that. It really could, but at the same time, though, the people who are price gouging, or the scalpers, as you like to say, could still, even they feel that it must be something to this, or this is must gonna sell. And I don't know if I don't know how many units were put out there, but I know that if I just didn't think this would do this. I mean, it could be scalpers, but I'm willing to think that somewhere in there were real gamers sprinkled in there too. And not only that, the reason you know it was real gamers because the outrage to this and the people saying that we wanted to get a opportunity to get it, but we couldn't. That's real. So it must be a real thing going on. But I'm asking you, would this be something that $199 right off the rip, just to play old, I don't know, handheld games, would this be something you would be interested in?
Me personally, I wouldn't be interested in buying it, mainly because I don't have cartridges. But you know, for other people that do have cartridges, it probably is worth it. But me personally, it isn't worth $300.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm saying this right off the bat, is that no, it would not be worth it, because I feel like with all the emulators and all that stuff going on right today, you could get most of these games somewhere out there like that if you're just feeling that nostalgia. I don't want to pay $300 just for a nostalgic feeling. You know, I get giddy when I see the emulator and say, "Oh, I could play that," even though the experience is not the same with the touch screen. You know,
I'll say what touch screens and stuff. It's not the same. Like these games were meant to be played with controllers, not touch controls.
yes, that's true, and I will give you that all day long and all day strong. I will give you that, but I'm not willing to pay $300 for some damn buttons. So, but I'm not knocking nobody who does. I'm just saying that's just not my cup of tea. To pay $300, $199, $200 for all intents and purposes out the tax for the what is it called, the Analogue Pocket, and then if you one of those type of people who just feel that you need the accessory to hook it up to the television, then that's another $99, in which will put you over the $300 mark. So, but with all that being said, look out for that if you're into that. Supposedly coming in 2021. Pre-orders have been taken for it, so look out for that. So, any closing thoughts, Dominique?
On the Neo Geo or the console wars?
Anything you want to have closing thoughts on console wars? You want to give it a shout out? Anything like that? Anything you want to close the show with? It's up to you.
My final thoughts are console wars are kind of dumb, especially with the PlayStation 5 and Series X becoming more like computers in the past years. And I think the Analogue Pocket is going to be great for those people with a large physical cartridges of the old handheld games.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to close it out with saying that I don't know if they're stupid. I'm sort of like indifferent in the middle. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're bad. I'm just like indifferent and just saying that, hey, look, it gets the video game community galvanized, because for a while, no matter whether you were an Xbox person or a PlayStation 5 person, on Twitter and the social media platforms, everybody was like, okay, if y'all really not going to announce something, we just wish both of y'all shut the hell up. Don't even talk about it if you're not going to do anything. So we were all united as a gamer community on that front. So games...
E3 united us, and now that's gone.
Yes, and E3 as well. So please, whenever COVID is gone, please understand that E3 was one of those type of things that made people come from all around the world to galvanize and get together. If y'all take that away, y'all will be killing off a little part of the gaming community's soul. Just understand that big companies and especially Sony and all the people that are pulling out, please understand that. I understand it's things that we couldn't possibly understand that's going on behind the scenes, but work it out. Work it out, damn it. Work it out. So with that being said, we're going to put the wraps on episode number 2. Like as I said in the beginning of the podcast, if you didn't get a chance to check out episode number 1, go ahead. This is Mario and Dominique, Gaming with the Watts, the podcast. Don't forget to check out the channel. Dominique will be live streaming some more. She will go ahead and finish off Paper Mario, the Origami King. My man Traden just finished The Last of Us Part 2. He finished the entire game. Look out for Ghost of Tsushima, and look out for maybe potentially SpongeBob, The Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. And before we go, any parting shots, any shout outs you would like to give, or any shameless plugs you would like to give?
Shout out to the gaming community for being so persistent on one announcements for games and stuff, especially the Nintendo fans. I know you out there guys are out there, you know, suffering for new games announcements. I know they just announced a Pikmin 3 port yesterday, but or not yesterday, a few days by the time you be seeing this, but and so stay strong. I'm sure Nintendo will announce something soon.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. We really, truly appreciate it. Stay on the lookout for future content. Next week, we'll be putting up something. Having me and her will sit down and figure out what next week is going to be about. But just assure, we will be coming to you. And at some point, we're going to have these podcasts up where podcasts stream all over the place. But for right now, it's exclusively on YouTube. But at some point, we're gonna get us our RSS feed and have it on the major podcasting platforms. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. And Gaming with the Watts podcast is out.